Okay, good morning, everyone. Just for the record, I'm going to get started here. I'm Ken Rosenblum. I'm the Associate Dean for Administration at Touro Law Center, and I bring regrets on behalf of our Dean, Patricia Salkin, who was unable to join us this morning. I also want to thank Barbara Whiting from the U.S. Small Business Administration for her indispensable assistance in pulling this program together this morning. Let me lay it out a little bit and let you know how it's going to run. I'm going to talk a little bit about our efforts here at Touro Law Center, and then we're going to have two separate programs. There is an agenda out on the table. The first program, 9:15 to 10:30 approximately, will be representatives of FEMA, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency, and the Small Business Development Center at the State University of Stony Brook. All of these groups have services and programs related to Hurricane Sandy. We're going to take a break from 10:30 to 11. Anyone in attendance who wants to meet individually, again, each of the representatives from the agencies will make a brief presentation on the work of his or her agency, and then we're going to take a break 10:30 to 11. We'll have question and answer as well. 10:30 to 11 will be a break for individual meetings. Those of you here, members of the public, who would like to talk to one of these groups or submit an application in the adjoining room off to the right as you exit. We do have representatives of FEMA and the Small Business Administration who are prepared to take applications today. Then we will have a second session with a representative of the State Financial Services Department. That's banking and insurance for any attendees who need assistance with either banking or insurance issues related to the storm. We will have a presentation from FEMA on the National Flood Insurance Program. The Suffolk County, the Long Island Regional Representative of the Department of Labor, because there is extended unemployment insurance available, and we'll have a couple of fill-in presentations. We were unable to get the Health and Welfare Council of Long Island, but I will describe some other attendees who are also here and will be available for one-on-one consultations, one-on-one sessions after the second program. This all started virtually the day of the storm. And we woke up the next morning and found that Touro Law Center was one of the only facilities, certainly the only legal facility in the community that had power. And our Dean, Patricia Salkin, said, this is a disaster of extraordinary proportions. We're one of the only legal agencies that has power, and we want you to get up an effort to assist people in the community who suffered as the result of the storm. And we had an extraordinary group of students, administrators, faculty members who put together a group which we came up with a wonderful name, TLC, Touro Law Center, Hurricane Emergency Assistance and Relief Team, TLC HART. And within a day or two of the storm, we opened up a hotline, a telephone hotline, an email hotline, and we had 20 student volunteers and 10 or 15 faculty and staff, 30 volunteer attorneys from among our alumni, another 30 or 35 volunteer attorneys from the Suffolk County Bar Association, and we began creating a resource bank, making referrals, providing pro bono legal assistance to members of the community. It turned out not to be this community. We got calls from as far away as New Orleans, people seeking information and assistance because we were one of the only groups that was up and running and had functioning telephones, computers, and email system. TLC HART has continued to date. To date, we have assisted an estimated 600 people with information, referrals. We're still getting calls and emails. And in fact, this meeting conference session today is one of the outgrowths of TLC HART to continue to serve the community. One other piece of good news, we're pleased to announce that we are establishing a disaster relief clinic. One of the things that has happened in the course of receiving complaints and inquiries from members of the public is the inquiries have changed over time. The first inquiries we got dates of the storm were emergency food, emergency housing, emergency clothing, kind of threshold inquiries. And again, we've made referrals to community groups. We've given threshold legal advice. But over time, the kind of complaints and problems we're getting has now matured. And now we're getting the more difficult, intractable problems, which are probably going to require the long-term involvement of legal assistance. And for that reason, we started a disaster relief clinic. It will be staffed by an experienced attorney professor familiar with disaster relief law, who will work with students in assisting people who have ongoing legal issues related to Hurricane Sandy. And that's going to start this semester. So if anyone here or viewing this video ultimately needs pro bono legal assistance, that will be available through Touro Law Center. I'd like to also introduce one of our representatives of TLC Hart, Mike DeTrano, who is a beginning attorney. And so if you have any questions or would like to connect with TLC Hart and the Disaster Relief Clinic on an ongoing basis, Mike DeTrano is one of the people to speak to. And also the guiding spirit behind all of these efforts, our Director of Public Interest, Tom Maligno, who heads our Public Advocacy Center, where TLC Hart is based, along with about a dozen public interest legal assistance groups. And Tom is joining us here as well today. Let me also introduce some of the folks who are here joining us in addition to the speakers listed in your program. We have Will Friedman, who is an attorney with the New York Legal Assistance Group. That's a group serving the metropolitan area with legal assistance on hurricane-related matters. He will be available here for questions and answers, and if anyone, either during the break or after the end of the session at about noon, would like to have a private consultation with Mr. Friedman, will you be able to stay with us for the duration of the program? Okay, very good. I've introduced the folks from TLC Hart. We also have housing counselors available. Maria DiGennaro, I'm proud to say, a Touro grad from Empire Justice, an agency in our Public Advocacy Center, has also arranged for the presence of housing counselors. So anyone here or anyone viewing the video who requires housing counseling, housing assistance, please seek out Maria DiGennaro. And forgive me, I've forgotten the name of the housing person with you. Okay, there it is, Carol Yap, who's the program manager for the Long Island Housing Partnership. Also joining us is Joe Paragallo from Project Hope. And Joe, maybe in the second session, I think we'll have a little time. I'd like you to give us a couple of minutes on the work of Project Hope. It's as I understand it, a network of counseling agencies that provide private counseling, multilingual private counseling to, and on a pro bono basis to people affected by Hurricane Sandy. So, Joe, we're going to fit you in the second session if you can give us a couple of minutes. Okay? Now, one of the reasons we put this session together today, again, it's part of our ongoing commitment to help the Long Island community, but also the timing is very important because, as you will soon learn, deadlines are fast approaching, although we just learned of one extension, but deadlines are fast approaching for FEMA claims. The deadline is January 28th. And I know the unemployment insurance claims for the expanded unemployment insurance, they're scheduled, the deadline is currently February 4th for that. So we wanted to get the information out to the community as quickly as possible. I see we've got FEMA is here now, so may I call on the FEMA representative. Please take a couple of minutes to describe your program and services, take some questions and answers, and then second, we're going to go to Bert Kelton from the U.S. Small Business Administration, and then Anthony Mineta. I'm very, very glad that you're here, from the Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency. One of the interesting things I learned in researching the folks in putting this program together is the extraordinary range and different types of assistance and how the community, public and private agencies, have pitched in to provide an extraordinarily broad range of services and assistance. And one of the things I learned, and I'm anxious to learn more, is the Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency has a sales tax relief program. If you or a contractor that you're working with is about to rebuild your business or your residence, there's a substantial sales tax benefit. And Mr. Mehta, I'm looking forward to his details and explanations how that goes together. And just to the other side of Mr. Mineta is most definitely not Gloria Glowacki. You're not Gloria. Okay. I figured out right away you weren't Gloria. But representative of the Small Business Development Center at the State University of New York. It's the Empire State Development Corporation, which has an extensive small business emergency loan program, and we're looking forward to learning that as well. So, FEMA, you are on. Sir. I'm sorry? Oh, I actually did earlier. We are videotaping this, and okay, yeah, and so I did mention that, but Mr. Mineta, I may have mentioned you. This is being, thank you, Tom, this is being videotaped, and we may use this as a resource in case we get calls. We're going to show it to our students who continue to work the TLC HART hotline and make it available, as Tom says, to people who call our hotline seeking information on these various programs. Okay, FEMA, you're on.
Good morning, everybody. FEMA is a program that's out here to give you support during a disaster, and it's not only for homeowners, it could be for business, it could be if you lost employment. It could also mean you lost property, whether you live in the area or not, but your property was there at the time of a disaster. The first process that you have to do is call your insurance if you have insurance, and as soon as possible, register with FEMA. Why register with FEMA if you have insurance? There might be something that the insurance may not cover, and FEMA may be able to help. You can apply with FEMA over the phone or on the internet. And we have the registration period till the 28th, and we're hoping that they'll probably extend it, but at this point we do not have any verification that it has been extended. After you've called your insurance and you've registered with FEMA, within 10 days FEMA will send an inspector to check your damage and see if your house is safe, sanitary, and secure, if some repairs need to be done while you're waiting for your insurance, or you need to relocate because your house is not livable. A lot of people I've found that are waiting to see if they hear from the insurance, then they'll call FEMA, and it's now Monday is the deadline, the 28th of January, and if they haven't registered, they're cutting themselves short because they would not get the assistance that FEMA may be able to offer. When you register with FEMA, depending on the information that you provide, they might ask you to fill out an SBA loan application. A lot of people say, no, I don't need a loan, I don't want a loan. Well, it's part of the application process. And it's not dependent on your income, it's dependent on your ability to pay. But you do have to fill out that SBA loan application so your application can go forward to FEMA. If you're not eligible, then they put you in a grant program, which might be able to help. And if you are eligible, it's the only process that will bring you as close to where you were before the disaster, because FEMA just makes sure that your house is safe, sanitary, and secure. And I'll give you an example. If you have a chandelier, FEMA will make sure that you get a lamp. If you had china, they'll give you Corel. If you had 5 TVs and one is working, you don't need a TV. One is enough. But with the SBA process, you could go back to the situation where you were before and work out. I'm not very knowledgeable with SBA, but we have this gentleman right here that be able to give you some information. The most important thing is get yourself registered. Do not wait for your insurance. It's going to take a little while with the insurance. If you're having problems, there's some numbers that are being provided. And also, it might take a little while, and FEMA might be able to help you while you get your insurance. When you do get your final insurance settlement, take it to a disaster recovery center or look on the letters that you get from FEMA. There's a fax number where you can fax a copy because FEMA does not duplicate services. So FEMA wants to know what you were assisted with. FEMA might help you relocate while your house is being repaired. Most flood insurance or all flood insurance do not cover, as far as I know, housing. And FEMA can help you with that. You don't have to wait. But as far as the repairs are concerned, they need your settlement so they can decide what you got and how much more you might require. So the important thing right now is getting that application in, not only for FEMA, but also if they request that you do SBA, you do it as soon as no later than Monday. Any questions?
What are the current local sites that are still?
Well, for this area is Lindenhurst, is one, the DRC is one, Lee Avenue in the library in Lindenhurst.
Can somebody file an application here today?
Yes, we do. We have some personnel situated in another room. We'll give you directions if you request it. And they'll be able to do an application here right away, either on the computer or we'll have a phone for you to call. Yes, I heard that they have extended it for 2 more weeks. So the process is try to find a place. It's not that they're not going to have no place to live. They have to look for an apartment, but they do have to get out of the hotels. What resources are available for those who haven't gotten that insurance? Well, we do have some numbers, and we'll be able to give them to you later. I don't have them in front of me, but the New York Insurance Commission is one place to call and report that it's taking too long, that they haven't responded to your request for your insurance and for your settlement, and that has been a big issue. But we'll be happy to look up the numbers for you when I get back to the desk, and I'll make sure that you get some of that information. Anything else? Thank you very much. And if you haven't registered, please take the opportunity to register, not only with FEMA, but also with SBA.
Okay, our next speaker is Bert Kelton, the U.S. Small Business Administration. The application deadline, as I understand it, for small business disaster assistance is July 13th, but 31st. Very good. Bert Kelton. Thanks.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. My name is Burl Kelton. I'm Public Information Officer for SBA Disaster Assistance. Home is Sacramento, California, but I've been out here since November 9th helping with the disaster. SBA was established as far as the disaster assistance side the same time FEMA was with the Stafford Act about 50 some years ago. Since then, we've approved over $50 billion worth of disaster assistance in the form of low-interest, long-term direct federal loans. The loans that are made by SBA Disaster, as contrasting with regular SBA, are direct federal loans. In other words, we underwrite and service the loan from beginning to end and do not sell or offload those loans to other banks or financial institutions. So that means that the folks that are helping you from the beginning, not individually, but the agency will be helping you through the term of the loan. Loan, in terms of the presidential disaster, which the Sandy event is, includes loans available to individuals, homeowners, and renters, as well as businesses. The loans are made on the basis of actual damage, and that part that is uncompensated of actual damage. So if a structure or a renter with personal property has lost a certain portion, but there is recovery from insurance, then the leftover portion is what we look at in terms of the SBA loans. With a business, there are actually two parts to loan opportunity, and that is that the physical part and what we refer to as economic injury, which is operating expenses that continue even though the business may be closed. For example, payroll or lease payments, inventory loss, those kinds of things, where it's the baseline of operating the business, not including the profit, and the business was not able to continue to operate. So we refer to that as economic injury. And a business is eligible to apply for assistance for physical damage and economic injury. The amount of available loan amounts for business is $2 million. For homeowners, it's $200,000 for physical and $40,000 for personal property. For renting people, it's the $40,000 for personal property. And again, that's for uncompensated damage. Interest rates are 1.688%, typical for homeowners and renters, 4% for business, and 3% for private nonprofit organizations. And that is simple annual interest. So let's talk about some of the programs that are available from the SBA disaster assistance side. You do not have to wait for your insurance to be settled in order to begin receiving help from SBA loans that you qualify for. The SBA loan can be applied toward refinancing a primary home, can be applied toward relocation if that's appropriate, or it can be applied toward mitigation. So a combination of any one of those or all of those programs can be applied toward your eligibility for an SBA disaster loan. What we do is send out an inspector, just as the insurance company and probably other contractors that might be assisting you. We send out an inspector that looks at the contents, the structure itself, and then the property surrounding that structure, because the SBA loan can be applied toward losses involving any one or all of those particular parts of the loss. So the inspector makes that determination, and then working in cooperation with the loan officer, the owner of the property or the business owner then determines what they're eligible for, makes the interest rate determination, and then calculates the term of the loan based on your ability to pay. So what we look at is your base maximum debt, the funding available or your income available after that calculation, and the amount of the eligible loan loss for the loss, and then calculate up to 30 years the term of the loan. The loan determination is made, you're notified, it's voluntary as to whether you would like to use all or a part of that loan, and then we begin the disbursement process depending on your need for the funds. If the loan amount is over $14,000, then we do look for a collateral to put a lien based on the amount of the loan. If it's less than that, then there's not a lien requirement. However, if there is not collateral available for a lien, that does not deny or prevent you from making the loan if that's appropriate. One of the things that we encourage folks to do is to go ahead and make sure that they apply so that you have options available in the case that there are changes or unexpected expenses later on. If you make your loan complete, if you go ahead and accept the loan, then decide that you are really more likely to wait because you feel like that you have what you need, then we can actually put that in advance for 6 months. And if you decide that you don't need it at that point, then we can close the account and there's no cost or obligation. And we just basically close that and hope that, the recovery is appropriate. If you decide after an abeyance up to 6 months that you will need the money available, then you can reopen that account and reopen the process where you are able to get some disbursement. The other thing is that if you participate in a federal program, which is the SBA program, and there are opportunities for grants and assistance from the state at some point in the future, and we all know that Congress is working on several projects which would be money supplied to the state to decide what application would be made. By participating in the federal program, you have protected the option of perhaps getting some of that grant money, because typically what we found in other parts of the country is that when there is state money available, the state wants to make sure that you participated with the federal program before your eligibility to receive local state funding from grants. The other thing is that the SBA program, if you are declined, as was mentioned by the FEMA representative, we immediately refer you back to FEMA to see if there is any additional grant assistance available. And sometimes this takes the form of receiving other needs assistance from community organizations who may come in and help out on a pro bono basis with repair or replace of homes, structures, personal property, or other needs that you have still outstanding. So it's really important to participate with that. Unfortunately, we don't have an opportunity to make applications here today, but there are telephone numbers available and representatives available at the Lindenhurst Library and at the Islip Town Hall West, so that you can go in and sit down and talk with them until the deadline. And I am happy to announce that I did receive confirmation that the individual assistance deadline has been extended 30 days for FEMA, and I'm assuming that SBA will be extending as well, but we don't have the specific date. But the governor has announced that there is a 30-day extension for individual assistance and 14 days for transitional housing, beginning, obviously, Monday. So you still have time, but the sooner that you participate in the program, get your application in, the sooner that you're able to receive assistance, which is important in the recovery. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that for businesses, the deadline for businesses to apply for economic injury, which you remember I mentioned, is that operating expense component of recovery for a business, is July 31st, and that still remains July 31st. So if you have a business, and we regard two typically unexpected relationships as businesses, and that is where you are an individual with rental property that you own and are actively renting, that we regard as a business relationship, and you would come for that particular recovery would come under the business loan review or application. The other is if there's a home-based business. And the home-based business is where you might be operating your business out of a portion of your home that you are actively engaged in and reporting on your income tax. So all of the business relationships that we're talking about must be reflected in your federal tax reporting, and must be something that you're actively involved in. And that way we can have an application for you in parallel with your personal application if that's the relationship for a rental or a home-based business. And that a regular business, incorporated, proprietorship, partnership, or other kinds of forms of business that are active can be reported or applied for under the separate business application. I'll be here for a while and on the breakout session to answer individual questions if you have that, or if there are general questions that you have now, I'd be glad to see if I can respond to that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. As far as the extension, I am waiting for official notification if it has been extended beyond January 28th. So it's not official yet, but I have my phone and I'm waiting on that confirmation. Till then, the deadline is for January 28th for individual assistance. And as soon as I get the notification, I will happily notify you all. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Anthony N. Mineta. He is the CEO and Executive Director of the Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. Good morning. Thanks to Toro for having this program. I think the more that we have outreach into the community, the better it is for resources and for our residents and businesses to know what is available for them during this reconstruction. So, like many residences, businesses and small businesses across Long Island were greatly affected by the storm, whether it was direct storm damage from flooding, from wind, or from a disruption in the gasoline supply. It was quite devastating for local companies as well. So what we did, the Suffolk County IDA and County Executive Balone, we rolled out an emergency sales tax relief program for small businesses that were sustained physical damage from the storm and that needs to reconstruct, renovate, make repairs, or purchase new equipment. So currently we're working with dozens of companies across Suffolk County on the South Shore, on both forks, on the South Fork and the North Fork, and especially on Fire Island, to make sure that our companies are back up and running and have programs that are cost effective and puts money back into their pocket. So what we're able to do is that we're opening this up to 200 small businesses in the county. And the way that we define a small business is 50 or less employees. So we want to make sure that our smaller companies especially have the extra financial support to get back up and running as fast as possible. So one of the requirements is that you must have a commercial space. So there's no home-based businesses, and this is not open to residential repair. This is only open for businesses. So if you have a retail, an office, a small factory, a catering facility, a restaurant, these are the types of businesses that we're working with. And the benefit period is for up to 6 months, so we want to encourage, the rebuilding as quickly as possible. You come in, we have a very streamlined, fast process. We could turn around approvals and applications within a 24-hour to 48-hour time period. And again, this is a direct economical benefit. So if a company is spending $100,000 on repairs and new equipment, they save on their state and local sales tax of 8.625%. So they would save in excess of $8,600 that goes right back into their pocket. So the process is very simple. We have an application, which we have several here that you can take with you. You can go on suffolkida.org and you can get the application and intake form there as well. You can call our staff, and the number is 631-853-4802. And again, we want to make this as quick as simple and efficient as possible. So we can turn around your applications relatively quick. What happens is you fill out the application. We need 2 pieces of documents. We need a certificate of good standing from New York State, Secretary of State, and we need to be added as an insurer on your liability insurance. So when we have those 2 pieces of paperwork, your application, we could turn around your sales tax exempt certificate that you can now start using for when you're making purchases of equipment, whether it be a refrigerator in your restaurant in the kitchen, or you need sheetrock or roofing material. That would all be exempt from state and local sales tax. And we at the end of the program, when you're finished with your reconstruction, all that we require you to do is fill out a simple form and just give us some proof of expenditures that you've been making, so keep track of it. And so that's the program, very concise in a nutshell on how we're out there helping small business. The program is still ongoing. We don't have a deadline in the foreseeable future, so it's open, and we look forward to working and helping as many of you as possible. Any questions? Yep.
Is this for Suffolk-based businesses only?
Our program is for Suffolk County-based businesses. The Nassau County IDA and the County Executive, Ed Mangano, they have a program that's similar to ours. The requirements and the specifications are not exactly the same. There's some variations, but I encourage you to go to the Nassau County IDA website and call them, and they'd be more than happy to help you. If you want to call us, I could certainly refer you over there to a contact person of who to work with. Yep.
If a business didn't know about this program and has already purchased for reconstruction, is there a possibility, or is
Well, there are rebates that there is a process that you can move forward with to do that, but we encourage it to be on an ongoing forward basis. However, what we're doing is when our program was approved in November is the date that the purchases are applicable to. So if you made those purchases from November forward, then you could still contact us and we could see if we could work something out. Any other questions?
would you be able to stay around a little longer and be able to first break the thing when we have a place?
Certainly. All right. Thank you.
We have breaking news here.
Okay, it's official. It's been extended to March 1st. But don't wait till March 1st. Anyone that you know, rush them to do the application so we could get everything running and in order. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker and last in this block, again, not Gloria as I mentioned, but I'm pleased to welcome Pierre Lespinasse. Those of you Turovians who are here might recognize the last name. He's already a member of the Turo family. He is the husband of Judith Lespinasse from our Senior Citizens Law Project. But he's here today representing the Small Business Development Center, State University of New York, Stony Brook, the Empire State Development Corporation, which also has a significant emergency loan fund for businesses. Pierre Lespinasse.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. That's how alert I am right now. I represent the New York State Small Business Development Center out in Stony Brook University. What we do is we advise, counsel small businesses to help them move forward, either with expansion, either with startup, or any other kind of business issues that they may have. What I'm going to talk about briefly is the Empire State quick liquidity loan, and quick defines and characterize this loan versus any other disaster loan you could possibly get. The application is fairly simple. It's made to be quick. The documentation that you need is also made to be quick. It's a very thin package of documentation that you actually need to do it. I have helped individuals fill it out if they come with the list of items that they are asked to come up with, it takes no more than maybe an hour and a half with photocopies and everything, and we're done. This is called a quick liquidity loan, and the amount is not a huge amount. It's between $5,000 and $25,000, which works for a lot of small businesses, and it ties them over. It does not prevent you from filling out and applying for the other types of loans. So this is quick. It's made for you to get some money quicker than otherwise. The payment period, unfortunately, is also quick. It's a 2-year period. The first 6 months of the loan it has a 0 interest rate, and the remaining period of the loan has a 1% interest rate attached to it. So it's almost not very much. The other conditions that you have to meet, it's not for personal, it's for businesses. Okay, so in terms of managing the applicant's expectation, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for an answer, mostly 2 weeks. It doesn't take very long. Some people are denied because their applications are either incomplete or they just don't qualify and they don't meet the qualifications. But a qualified person gets a check deposited in their checking account fairly quickly, say 2 weeks. The application is also online. I'll have it out here for those that are interested. You can fill it. You can fill it online. It's really better if you have any access to us at Stony Brook. We have sort of negotiated a process where we transmit the application electronically. We know who's got it. We can sort of trace it back. And if you don't hear anything from them, although they won't tell us because of privacy laws and regulations, they won't tell us what's going on if you've been rejected or not. But we have the ability to trace it. So you're not just sending it into a black hole. We have access to people there, and these are people that we know, and we can make a phone call. So if you have any possibility of coming to the center at Stony Brook with your application, with the necessary documents that are listed for you, there's maybe like 10 different documents and you'll see it in the application. We basically take it, review it, make sure everything is correct, and as required, we take the file, we scan it, PDF it directly to someone, and the process gets started right away. So we are invited to come to the Stony Brook University SBDC Center. You don't need an appointment. You don't need to call and make an appointment. We made it so that anybody who walks in gets taken care of as a priority. So please come. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. You have to have been in business for at least 2 years. You'll have to submit at least 1 year last year's income tax, a picture of your driver license, the latest checking account statement from your bank, things like that. Nothing really complicated. Yes, sir.
What's the approximate turnaround time from the application?
2 to 3 weeks.
Is there any deadline,
It's coming at the end of the month. It's sort of tied. Now that everyone seems to be extending it, I wouldn't be surprised if that gets also extended. But as of now, it's until the end of the month.
At the end of January?
January, yes.
And do you have applications here? Have you left copies of
I will have them shortly. I'm having them printed as we speak.
And are they available online?
They are perfectly available online.
And the website
It's also on Stony Brook. It's on our website in Stony Brook, but it is also on the NYBDC, SBDC website also.
NYSBDC.
That's correct. It's on their website. Yes, sir. You are asked to provide a personal financial statement. So yeah, there are some credit qualifications involved, but it's heavily weighted towards your need as a business person. You are asked that, but I'm saying in terms of the weight that's given to your credit qualification, your needs are much more. You know. Yes. No, it does not. Some people apply for boat loans at the same time. One does not disqualify. Now, the SBA has a process. Is it FEMA or SBA where they look at what you've already gotten in terms of help, and then consider whatever remaining needs that you have.
Right. As I explained earlier, it's the SBA disaster loan is based on uncompensated damage. So what we're looking at is what's left over after all recovery. The best way to find out what your eligibility is to apply, because each case is looked at individually, and there may be opportunity there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm glad and surprised to say we're actually running a little bit ahead of schedule, which is unusual for conferences. So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to take a break, which was scheduled in any case. I'll ask our speakers from the first session to remain here for a little while for individual one-on-one consultations and advice. Also, as a reminder, we do have a location immediately to the right as you leave where you can actually apply today for small business and FEMA assistance. That's immediately to the right as you exit. Because the speakers are scheduled at 11, I invite you to join us for a cup of coffee or tea in the cafeteria. That's on this level directly at the back side of the building. And also I want to reintroduce representatives of some other groups not scheduled as speakers who are here and who have also agreed to be available for individual consultations during the break. We have Will Friedman, who is an attorney from the New York Legal Assistance Group. This is a group of attorneys who provide storm-related legal assistance. We have Mike DeTrano from TLC Hurricane Emergency Assistance and Relief Team, the Truro-based group that provides legal assistance and advice and pro bono representation, or referral to pro bono representation for people dealing with whatever it is, insurance, loans, landlord, tenant, the entire range of issues and problems that people have encountered during Hurricane Sandy. We do also have Maria DiGennaro from Empire Justice and the housing counselor, Carol Yap from the Long Island Housing Partnership for folks dealing with housing-related issues. And finally, from Project Hope, the umbrella counseling group, Joe Paragallo, and they've also agreed to remain here. If anybody needs room for private consultation, please see me. I will arrange for a private room. Tom, anything to add at this point?
Yes, I just wanted to add that all of the legal providers, and luckily we've been getting some more funding. As you know, as part of the Legal Services Corporation, got $1 million for legal services. And here on Long Island, Nassau Suffolk Law Services will be the recipient of that. We have NILAG, who got a significant amount of money from the Robin Hood Foundation, and they are rapidly adding to their staff to serve Long Island. We have the Nassau and Suffolk Bar pro bono efforts. We have Hofstra's Clinic, which focuses on small business work. And we have Empire Justice. We have our new clinic that will be starting next week. So I just wanted to let you know that where all of these legal groups will be meeting in the next week or so to coordinate, because as Ken did mention earlier, not only are we continuing to get calls, but those calls are more and more complicated. And they range a lot with insurance issues, a lot of issues with the banks that are not releasing the checks, despite the agreement that was reached with New York State government. And we're getting a lot of now consumer questions. You know, just this week we had a call from someone who had an $8,000 quote for mold removal and then got a $44,000 bill. And we're seeing more of those types of questions. And we're seeing a second round of landlord-tenant questions that are more long-term than the initial emergency questions we saw at the beginning. So our goal is to coordinate all of the legal resources on Long Island so we're all working together, so we're setting joint priorities, so hopefully, you know, one person's not on a list somewhere while somebody's able to easily get service somewhere else. And so we'll get that information out as quickly as possible. We're actually going to be doing another program on February 22nd for all of our volunteer lawyers and all the programs together to bring in more lawyers because, frankly, that's been a little bit hard up till now. We do have volunteers, but the complex legal questions are growing. And even just yesterday, I met with 3 of the large Wall Street law firms, and they're going to be giving us volunteers pro bono for cases as well. So we'll be getting all this information out, but all of us legal types are getting our act together to make sure we can be as efficient and appropriate as possible in helping people. And we just thank all of you for your partnership because you've all been wonderful. So thank you.
Okay, and again, thanks to our first panel, Jenny Roman from FEMA, Bert Kelton from the U.S. Small Business Administration, Anthony Mineta, the Executive Director of the Suffolk County IDA, and I should also mention his wonderful assistant, Amy, who was absolutely terrific. She did just a terrific job in doing liaison and making the arrangements to get you here. So thanks also to Amy. Pleasure dealing with you. And finally, Pierre Lespinas from the State University of Stony Brook Empire State Development Corporation on small business emergency loans. Again, we're going to take a break till 11. Coffee, tea, snacks are available in the cafeteria in the rear of the building. All of the representatives from both the public and private agencies will be here, and we're going to reconvene at 11 for the New York State Department of Financial Services to discuss insurance and banking issues, FEMA on the National Flood Insurance Program, and the New York State Department of Labor on extended unemployment insurance. So we'll see you back here at 11. Thanks again to everyone. Okay, folks, if we could reconvene, we're ready to begin the second session. For those of you who are not here for the first session, I just wanted to introduce you to some of the non-speaker resources that we have available here. And after the second part of the program, we've asked all of our guests, both the speaker guests and non-speaker guests, to stay around and to answer questions individually, and we've made arrangements for private consultation sessions as well, so you can connect with the speaker or organization representative of your choice. In addition to the speakers who I'm going to introduce in a moment, we have Will Friedman from the New York Legal Assistance Group. This is a group of lawyers that provide pro bono legal assistance to people with Hurricane Sandy-related problems. We also have Turo's in-house group, TLC Hart. Mike DeTrano, I think, is out working on something. He should be back. We also have Maria DiGennaro from Empire Justice and housing counselors from the Long Island Housing Partnership. Maria, if you would just wave and identify yourself to the newcomers. We also have Joe Paragallo from Project Hope. I'm going to ask him to say just a few words at the end of the program. This is an umbrella group that provides counseling to people suffering from the after effects of Hurricane Sandy. And when I say people, that's not necessarily just homeowners and business owners. One of the things, I know we have a lot of agency representatives here, and agency representatives involved in an intense high-pressure situation could also benefit, may also benefit from the services of Project Hope. So I'll ask Mr. Paragallo just to say a few words at the end of the program. But our second session, our first speaker is William Niezgoda. He is a senior insurance examiner with the New York State Department of Financial Services. What used to be the State Insurance Department and the State Banking Department has been combined into one, and he's going to talk about hurricane and flood insurance. Mr. Niezgoda. Yeah, I need you on the mic.
Good morning, and on behalf of the department, thank you for inviting us to speak before the group and to have the opportunity to share some information to anyone out there who's experienced a claim. Our sympathies for the damage that you incurred, but I'd like to say, please be assured that the department is there to assist you to the best that we can with any type of claim that we have jurisdiction over, and toward that end, because our department is basically two entities, the insurance department and the banking department. My side, the insurance department, and I'm in the consumer assistance unit. I've been there for over 30 years. So I'd like to think I've got some experience, got a couple of advanced degrees in insurance that I hopefully try to put to good use on behalf of the consumer. On our banking side, to those wondering, well, how can banking help? We've run into some issues where obviously, if you have a property loss and there is a mortgage on your property, or subject to some sort of loan, the lender will be listed on your insurance policy, and the ability to cash any settlement check will have to go through the lender. Again, I'm going to be very short on the banking side. If any consumer is running into difficulties with their banking, with their lender, then they can certainly put a call into our banking department at 1-877-226-597. And I've been assured by one of the top supervisors or bosses in the department that his unit will get on this matter right away. Some of the problems that we've heard about are, the lender is being very slow in releasing the funds, and that is causing the homeowner or person with the property damage the inability to get the claims adjustment process going. So, yes, sir. Yes. The number for banking is 1-877-226-5697. Okay. Now, again, now on the insurance side that I've worked for Lowe's so many years, we will look into complaints or answer just general questions concerning homeowners, auto, flood, business policies, and where there's a complaint, we will certainly delve into the information that the consumer provides us and attempt to see, where the problems lie and whether there is a resolution that we can bring to fruition, by looking at the policy and helping the homeowner or consumer navigate their way through the claims process. Now, getting into, the insurance claim, basically you've got four players who are going to be very important, or all important in the claims process. We've got the insurance companies, the adjusters, and we've got the homeowner, and we've got their contractors. And all four, are going to play a critical role in trying to get the claim done and get everyone satisfied. But let me digress just for a second. Our department does have authority over policies issued in New York State by admitted carriers. One area, though, and very critical in this particular storm, is the flood policy. Now, flood policies can either be written under the Write Your Own policy program, where insurers such as Allstate or State Farm will put their name on the insurance flood contract, and you'll deal with your agent in securing the policy. But that contract of flood policy, like any flood policy, is really and truly regulated and issued by the federal government. We are certainly willing and able to contact adjusters with a flood policy, or we will reach out to the National Flood Insurance Program. We'll reach out to the insurance company that issued the policy and take a look at their claims process. And we assist to the best we can. But ultimately, if it comes down to a dispute as to the amount of money being allowed for a particular claim, the policy actually notes that it's through the National Flood Insurance Program that where a homeowner would have to petition if they ultimately, the homeowner and the insurance company and or the insurance company's adjuster cannot come to an agreement as to the correct amount of payment for a particular loss. Likewise, on just the handling of a flood policy, the payment of premiums and, when the policies will cancel or non-renew under certain situations. Those rules are also subject to the United States government, and our insurance laws are not really applicable to the flood policies. Anyway, now going forward, again, with Hurricane Sandy, you've got homeowners policies that are coming into play and flood policies. And then the adjusters. In New York State, we have two types of adjusters. We've got independent adjusters who are working on behalf of the insurance company to negotiate the loss. And we have public adjusters who are, if hired, are representatives of the homeowners. And, to be a public adjuster, you have to be licensed, and that gives you the ability to solicit claims and to negotiate the settlement of the claim. In order, again, first of all, there were a lot of issues concerning, the delays in the claim process, and what our department had done, is we had allowed insurance companies to request temporary adjusters licenses for independent adjusters, and to date we've issued 20,000 of them. So the department was really working diligently that as soon as the applications came in and the individual was properly credentialed, we went ahead and issued the independent adjuster's license. I know obviously that didn't solve all the delays, but we were attempting with a storm of this magnitude to make sure there was enough personnel to assist the company in adjusting the losses. Now, just a little more about public adjusters. If a homeowner decides to retain a public adjuster, public adjusters are allowed to charge up to 12.5% of the amount of the claim in adjusting the loss. However, that percentage is negotiable, and if the homeowner is able, they can negotiate a lower percentage of claim that they would pay the public adjuster. Public adjusters' agreements, if they're going to represent the homeowner, it has to be in writing, And there's also a 3-day cooling off period where if you do retain a public adjuster, you have the right to cancel that agreement without a cost to you, so long as the public adjuster is notified within 3 business days in accordance with the rules that are found in our regulation for public adjusters. Okay. Now, again, the other important people in the and probably the homeowner obviously is the most important person in the claim process. They've suffered the loss, and the insurance policy really obligates them to do take a number of steps in order to assist in getting their claim paid. The normal claim process obviously is the loss occurs. The insured should notify their agent and or company's claim department as soon as possible after the loss. According to our Regulation 64, which is the Fair Claim Settlement Practices Regulation, initially the carriers had 15 business days to get an adjuster out there or to commence investigating the loss. Our governor, wanting to speed up this process for Sandy victims, put forward a couple of emergency regulations where he reduced the number of days for the investigative process to start down to 6 business days. And hopefully, this is helping consumers, get their claims settled just a little bit quicker. Very important for the consumer to, once they've got the damage, that in order to attempt to make sure they get the correct amount of reimbursement, they should go out and secure contractors' estimates for their damages. 1 is definite. 2, if you can secure it, because, the first estimate you get from a contractor may or may not correctly reflect the amount of damage and how much it's going to take to get repaired. If you get 2 estimates from 2 different contractors and they're both in the same ballpark and they're independent people and don't know each other, the homeowner's got a better chance of saying, okay, this is probably the correct amount for the damage I have. And when they get the itemized estimate back from the insurance company, and which was the document produced by the independent adjuster on behalf of the company, they can match up those estimates and see whether the amount, or basically what they should do is present the insurance company's itemized estimate to their contractor and find out whether he can make the repairs for the amount of the company's allowance. How are claims settled? Initially, as long as you're carrying the proper amount of insurance on the item that was damaged, then it's going to initially be settled on actual cash value per insurance regulation or custom. Actual cash value is the current replacement cost of the item less depreciation. We get a lot of inquiries or disputes. Well, I believe that the depreciation rate taken by the carrier is too much on certain items. A depreciation rate on an item that is, available for replacement cost coverage isn't that critical, because under the insurance contract, once you get the repairs made on that depreciated item, you can submit the receipt to the insurance company and they will send you the depreciation holdback. On other items such as personal contents, and especially under a flood policy where personal contents are not eligible for replacement cost coverage, then the depreciation rate is a lot more critical, because that's the only amount, the actual cash value is the only amount you're going to get from the insurer on that. Toward that end, if a consumer wants to dispute the amount of actual cash value, they can go out online and secure a copy. There's all sorts of depreciation tables out in order to, prove or disprove that a payment is correct. some of the other issues, especially in Hurricane Sandy, we get a lot of inquiries from consumers. Well, I've got homeowners coverage. Why is there no coverage for flood under the policy? And, the real reason is that the insurance carriers felt that a loss of this scale is, either too unpredictable to determine when it's going to happen, and it's too costly for them to pay for when it does happen, which is some of the same logic that they use under the homeowners policy. Why, damage caused by war or earthquakes are not covered. Those are all standard exclusions under a homeowner's policy. Homeowners will come to the department and ask, well, under my homeowners, is there any coverage whatsoever? I know the property is not going to be covered for flood, but any other coverage under the homeowner's policy? And that answer is possibly, depending on the language in your policy and whether you purchase some additional endorsements. Probably the three areas where you have a chance to collect under your homeowners for damage caused by a flood. One would be food spoilage, which, it's not a mandatory coverage under the homeowner's policy. If power goes out and the food spoils and your company has included that coverage in your policy, you're going to collect usually, up to a maximum of $1,000 with possibly a specific deductible. Another area where you might be able to get some money from your homeowner's policy, and again, it's dependent on the language, would be a water or sewer backup endorsement that's available for an additional premium. In order to determine whether you have it, you really would have to look at the declaration page of your policy and check out the endorsements and how they're worded, and then go to your actual physical contract if you can locate it, and take a look at the wording. And then finally, the other possible source of reimbursement under the homeowners might be for additional living expense if you were placed out of the house by a mandated civil evacuation. But again, there's specific conditions in the policy which will trigger that coverage, and it's not automatic. So for anyone who has questions about this, we implore you to please read your policy. Don't make these least read bestsellers. Just everybody gets it, they throw it in the drawer and say, I'm never going to need it. And then when a claim hits, well, you really need to understand, to the best you can, take a look at your policy, look at it. I'll just take up 2 more minutes. Now, under an... I'm going to answer individual questions later, but if they're general, I'd be glad to address them now. But let me just, before I forget this one point. Under an HO3 homeowner's policy, a lot of times we will get a question, especially in a flooding situation. Well, we had a fence, and the winds came, the winds knocked it down, and 2 hours later a flood hit. The homeowner knows this or believes this. The insurance company's adjuster arrives on the scene 4 days later and sees the fence gone, and he is in it. Most likely the final determination by that adjuster is going to be, well, no, this is not covered because the loss was caused by a flood excluded by the policy. However, under an HO3 policy, which is all risk, the burden really falls on the insurance company to prove that the item that, for structure under an all-risk type coverage, that the property they're not covering is specifically excluded by the policy. It's not the homeowner's obligation to prove, oh, well, it was the wind. It's really the insurer's obligation to prove that it was caused by flood. So I've been telling consumers, well, if you have this question with, let's say the fence or other items that you believe were truly wind damage before the storm and you want to attempt to make claim, you can ask the company for, a copy of their adjuster's report and how he can justify that it was a policy exclusion that caused the damage and not something that should be paid for under an all risk. We'd like to help in every claim. Some companies are more liberal in their interpretation of the policies than other carriers. We can only make the company do what is in their particular policy. If Company A decides to liberally interpret the wording of their policy and pays a claim, and Company B sticks to the letter of the law of their policy, we can't force Company B and say, well, A's paying these, you guys should. But likewise, we won't tell A if they want to be, liberal, interpret it a little more liberally to all their policyholders and treat all their policyholders the same. We're not going to say, well, that's bad. We're going to allow that. We attempt to help the consumer. That's our guiding, focus, to help the consumer with coverages that they should be getting paid for under their policies. General questions? Sure. Yes. If the homeowner just now finds out that they have a food spoilage claim that wasn't initially presented to the insurance company, can they apply now? And that's a good question on 2 points, because there was one issue I forgot. Yes, they can apply now. Under a flood policy, there's proof of losses that may or may not be required with insurance claims. If on a homeowner's policy, if the insurer asked the homeowner to sign a proof of loss, 2 points. Even if a proof of loss was signed under a homeowner's policy, I'm of the belief that you could still put in for a food spoilage claim if it wasn't included on that proof of loss. Again, with proof of losses under flood policy, it's normal for the insurance company to ask the insured to sign a proof of loss to get the initial payment. However, under a flood policy, that does not act as an end of the line for the claim payment process. It's just a standard, which is entirely different than the homeowner's policy. If you have a structure loss on a homeowner's policy and you and the company are disagreeing on the amount, and the carrier says, well, here's what we're going to allow for this damage to the home, we want you to sign a proof of loss. If the homeowner signs the proof of loss for that particular damage, that is the end of the line for the amount that they're going to get for that particular damage. They can't open the claim up again. A proof of loss basically stops a homeowner's claim for the items included in that proof of loss. The flood policy proof of loss is entirely different, and it doesn't stop the claim. Okay. Any other questions or general questions? So the question is, someone else's tree, or okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the question of a tree falling on some property and whether it was a healthy tree or one that should have been cut down because there was no leaves on the branches and it was dead. The general concept is if the property owner where the tree, that tree was situated on, if that property owner was notified that, yes, there's a potential liability issue here because you've got that you have a dead tree on the property, and the property owner took no action on that, then the limb that came down off that tree and damaged the cars, let's just say the owners did not have comprehensive or other than collision coverage, they would, my opinion is, they would have a right to sue the owner of the property where the tree was because there was a liability situation that they were put on notice. Again, if the tree was healthy, then I'd say the answer was correct, that the owner of that property did not have any liability and it was an act of God, and therefore the only way the owners of the cars could collect would be under their own comprehensive coverage, and I don't believe the insurer paying that auto claim would have any ability to subrogate because the tree was a healthy one when the occurrence happened. Likewise, last point on windstorm deductibles and the homeowners policies in New York State and Hurricane Sandy. What the governor had said after the storm, what he was telling, and this made reference to homeowners policies issued by an admitted carrier in New York and not like an excess line carrier like a Lloyd's of London. Our hurricane deductibles in New York State, they have a specific windstorm speed that if a storm strikes and crosses the New York State border and the storm happens to be over 75 miles per hour, and forgive me either way on the 75 miles, but it's in the 70 mile an hour, if at that point, then the windstorm deductible can be triggered. If the storm was less than the wind speed stated in the policy for a hurricane deductible, then the insurers cannot impose the hurricane deductible, which is a percentage of the coverage on the home. However, the homeowners policies in New York could still apply either the regular deductible, which most people have at $500 or $1,000, or if the homeowner had opted for not a hurricane deductible, but just a windstorm deductible in New York, then that optional windstorm deductible could be triggered. Now, the optional windstorm deductible in New York gave the homeowner a lower premium if they chose to take that. The hurricane deductible was not optional, and if you wanted a policy from that particular carrier, that had to be issued with the hurricane deductible. Again, after I'm done, I'm glad to answer questions to the best I can about windstorm deductibles and any other insurance questions you might have. Yes, sir. Well, for these homeowners, what caused the damage to the home? That's a tough question, okay? If they needed to get money from the flood insurance, okay, in order to repair the home, and now because they didn't, the pipes are freezing. See, the homeowner's policy states, and even the flood policy states that the homeowner should be taking necessary steps to secure the home to prevent any further damage. It's possible, I hate to see the homeowner in this position. I can just see it's possible that the homeowner's coverage will say, all right, well, this wasn't our damage that caused this house to be in the state it's in and to have the pipes subject to freeze. Therefore, if the homeowner didn't take whatever steps he could, they may deny it, and I think you're going to have to go to the flood insurer and put the supplemental claim into them. That'd definitely be the first step. Yeah, interesting and a difficult question. I can't even hazard a guess at this time which way it would go.
And our speakers will all stay around for a bit after the program, so if you have individual questions rather than general questions, they will be staying here to reply to those questions. Our next speaker is Mark Grossman. He is the New York State Labor Commissioner's Long Island Regional Representative, and he's going to talk about disaster unemployment insurance. And I think this is something that's not well recognized. The terms are different than regular unemployment insurance, and also there are special programs for individual proprietors who might not otherwise be eligible for traditional unemployment insurance. And one of the issues, I talked about deadlines at the beginning, my understanding that the deadline for application is coming up February 4th, right? And as yet no extension. So this is Mark Grossman from the New York State Department of Labor. One other reminder also that I forgot to mention in the introduction to the second part is we do have representatives still here if you need to file an application for a small business administration loan or a FEMA claim. If you exit to the right and make another right, you can file those claims right here on site today. Okay, Mark Grossman, New York State Department of Labor.
Thank you, Ken. And that's true. The deadline is coming up on February 4th. So if any of what I'm going to talk about, if you think that it pertains to you or your business, you should certainly apply right away. All the application work can be done online. It can also be done on the phone as well. It cannot be done out of our local one-stop offices. There was a change a number of years ago. A lot of people still sort of incorrectly refer to them as unemployment offices, but they're really now turned into kind of resource centers where people get reemployment services. The whole unemployment payment processing system exists in sort of call centers and other central facilities upstate. So it needs to be done through the internet or by phone. But let me go through some of the specifics here. It's called Disaster Unemployment Assistance, and it's different from unemployment insurance. And it has, the qualifications are really quite broad. If you were dislocated, meaning if you were unemployed, even for just a day, if just because your business closed down for a couple of days, if you're the owner of the business, you can qualify for this, and your workers can qualify for this. And if you're an employee somewhere, you would qualify. These are and really this is just some of the kind of top level qualifications. We really look at each one of these on a case by case. If you were injured in the disaster and unable to work, I mean, it could literally be if you had some household or yard work injury that because of the storm. Your workplace was damaged or destroyed. It can be damaged for a temporary period of time. You're unable to get to work. You can't get to your workplace because of the disaster. It could be that, in that case, roads were closed and your workplace was open, but you couldn't get there. Or your car was damaged or destroyed because of flooding, and the roads were open and your workplace was open, but you didn't have your vehicle. So that can qualify you. You were about to begin work, but then the storm hit. So for people who are starting their jobs that week, and they might say, well, I don't qualify because I wasn't working. Well, yes, you were going to work, and you would qualify for this. Under normal circumstances, unemployment insurance wouldn't cover that. You have to be working for a period of time. If you're the breadwinner and provide major support for your household, and the former head of the household had a significant injury, or even there are people who died in the storm, that would qualify members of the family for disaster unemployment assistance. Or if most of your income comes from a declared federal disaster area and your business is down or your sales are down, so you could be a salesperson who depends on commission and you have the territory in the metro New York area and your business is down because your sales are down, or you're a proprietor of a business and business is down, or you had to close, you would qualify. So it doesn't matter whether you are a DBA kind of working out of your house, or an LLP, an LLC, or a corporation, because in those cases, the owner is an employee of the corporation. So they would qualify as an employee for this. How the payment is calculated is very similar to unemployment insurance. In unemployment insurance, the maximum payment in New York State at this time is $405 a week. It is unfortunately one of the lowest top payments in the country, actually, and that's something Governor Cuomo actually has a reform package for unemployment insurance that would bring us with a greater degree of parity to our neighboring states. I think it's like $600 in Connecticut and $500 and change in New Jersey. It's kind of ironic that we're one of the highest cost of living states and we have one of the lowest, at least top amounts when it comes to unemployment insurance, and also one of the lowest base amounts. I think it's $65 a week. The governor has proposed bringing it up to at least $100. So, but that would apply in the future once that legislation hopefully passes. Right now it's $405. The good thing also too about disaster unemployment assistance is that there's no 1 week waiting period. Normally when you file for unemployment insurance, your first unemployed week is not paid for by the state. That's sort of a period of which you have to absorb that yourself, and you start to be qualified in week 2. With disaster unemployment assistance, you qualify on day 1. Also, too, if you're a business owner and post-storm, after the storm, you were involved in direct repair and restoration of your facility. Normally, under unemployment insurance, if you're engaged in any activity to improve your business, you wouldn't qualify for unemployment insurance. So that if you had a restaurant and the restaurant had a fire, and you yourself had the skills to be able to do a significant amount of the repair and restoration work to get your business up and going, you wouldn't qualify for unemployment insurance for that, because you're engaged in work according to the guidelines, even though you suffered that loss. Under the disaster unemployment assistance, you would qualify if you're involved in getting your business back up and going, because, like I said, the parameters are much broader. So it's one of those best kept secrets. A lot of folks don't know about it. I've certainly been going around the island talking to groups, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this to you folks. And I have some fact sheets here that have some of what I talked about and the contact information in order to how to file. You could still file retroactively. So for people who are unaware that they could have qualified, so long as you have the documentation, you can file retroactively. And frankly, in many cases, especially in some areas, Lindenhurst, Long Beach, other areas that had significant flooding, people don't even have their documentation because things were just lost in the floods. We will work with the customers who come to us and try to recreate those documents and work with other levels of government to at least get you into the program. So people shouldn't be concerned if they don't have that information. I also wanted to mention 2 other programs. One is sort of now in the middle and underway, so there's not a lot that you can plug into at the moment, but there's another round of it. And what is it's called a National Emergency Grant, an NEG. And these NEGs are something which states apply for after the disasters. We applied for an NEG after Hurricane Irene a year and a half ago. We even applied and received an NEG right at the peak of the recession after the Wall Street meltdown back in 2008, 2009, and that was looked at as a disaster, and we were able to receive some money for an infusion of some training that we're able to do throughout the state, particularly in the downstate area. We applied for and received very quickly an NEG for Hurricane Sandy. In the first round, we got enough funding to fill, it was about 6,000 or so, kind of lower level, or say entry level type positions to do cleanup and restoration work. And I say that because there was a sensitivity to having people coming into the system and taking over jobs from people who worked for organized labor unions and did construction and reconstruction and repair work. And so we made sure that these positions were supplemental and assisted really in the cleaning up the damage that was done. And they were employed by the municipalities so that the money was passed through and was given to Suffolk County, Nassau County, townships and villages to hire workers to do road cleanup, tree trimming, garbage removal. People had a lot of debris out on their lawns in some of the South Shore communities. And we have about 500 workers right now on Long Island going through a 5 or 6 month stint, and that will be coming to an end in a couple of months. The first round of people who qualified, well, the top tier were people who were dislocated because of the hurricane. That was our priority hires for this. The second were people who were long-term unemployed, and the third was in the general population of people who are unemployed. So we're in the middle of that program, but what is coming up is another round. We don't know the dollar amount yet, but it's not going to be for cleanup because we're well underway in that area, but it's going to be what the department is referring to as humanitarian efforts. And because there's still the ongoing need to deliver food and supplies, assist people with getting appropriate shelter, getting people to the right kinds of human services, providing counseling and education, and even future preparation for future storms, or preparation for future storms. So we'll be hiring people, and I don't know what kind of number, but it'll be through either the state or the local workforce investment boards. And once I get that information, I'll make sure that the college is on the distribution list so it can be distributed to the people who were here. But that may be opportunity for people who who are looking for work. It can also be an opportunity too if you're aware of critical masses of people, and whether it be through not-for-profits and other organizations where these workers can supplement and provide some assistance. And lastly, and again I have this on a sheet here, is our general services which we offer. Many of them kind of rise to the top after significant events like Hurricane Sandy. One of them that comes to mind is called shared work. If you're a business person, and if because of a decrease in your business, you have to contemplate laying off workers, we have a program called Shared Work that is a very kind of unique way of dealing with that downturn in business while still retaining your key workers. So hypothetically, if you have a business of 20 people and you, because of a downturn, it could be because of the storm, you need to lay off 3. Through Shared Work, you can take a group of 10 workers and reduce their hours, say, by 1 day a week. And my math may not be right here, but let's just say by doing that, you come up as a business person with the same savings. Your payroll was reduced by the same amount. but the pain is being shared among a larger group of workers. Now you might say, well, but now they're only working 4 days a week. Normally, with unemployment insurance, if you're working 4 days a week, that's considered a full week of employment. You wouldn't qualify for unemployment insurance. But under shared work, you would. So if you're a worker who qualifies for that 405 a week, you would get 1/5 of that 405. So you can do the math on that, and that might be, is it $80 or so? It might not make you fully whole for that day that you lost, but it gets you there. And it also, from an employer standpoint, it helps to keep your workers with you because, as you know, one of the biggest costs any employer has is training costs and recruitment and finding good workers. You lay off those 3 people, you may have a hard time getting them back once business picks up again. If you're using shared work, they're all staying with you. They hopefully will appreciate the fact that you've entered into this program with the Department of Labor and at least they qualify for a little supplement for that missed day. You might even find that some workers will volunteer for it because situations in their life might be good for them to reduce their hours during a period of time. And we have a number of companies that use it regularly. It's a tool that we've been particularly marketing during this time of the last couple of months since the storm because it can be a good way for a company to get through this period of time when they may have a downturn in their business but still want to hold on to their workers. The fact sheets, which I'll leave here, also have other information on some of our other services and also just for people who are looking for work, our one-stop career centers. We have 5 of them on Long Island, Patchogue, Hauppauge, Massapequa, Hicksville, and Hempstead, are open to help people get back to work, a full breadth of different kinds of reemployment services, workshops, resume writing, and interview skill workshops, all kinds of kind of soft skills and even some industry-specific skills too. So I'll be available afterwards to talk more if people have specific questions. If there are any general questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
General question.
Yes.
Now, let me just spin out a hypothetical. Actually, a friend of mine, and I'll get to the question after I spin out. I'm sorry, I'm a law professor. I have a friend who runs a home-based business. What she does is she files certain tax returns for business. Gets the information over the computer, files them. Home-based business based in Hauppauge, many trees now. Honestly, that's without power, without heat, and plus her whole business is computer-based. When the power went back up, she went back to work. She was instead of working 8 hours a day, working 60 hours a day. So she eventually caught up and timely filed all the returns and ultimately would collect from her clients whatever was owed. So my question is, since she has no economic loss, would she still be eligible for the disaster unemployment assistance since her business was downgraded?
Mm-hmm. She actually might be. The fact that she went and voluntarily kind of put in those extra hours to bust her tush afterwards is something that she did, and which it's great that she did it. But the opportunity to collect this unemployment assistance, this disaster unemployment assistance, would still be there for her. As we say, everything is looked at on.
Show specific economic loss.
She would need to. Different businesses require different types of documentation. If she files, makes quarterly filings, she may have to show the last couple of quarters, so that they get a sense of what her income is and how her business is paced, and so there would be some documentation like that they may ask. But the fact that, because really if you come down to it, almost that would apply in so many cases of people who were able to make it up afterwards. The department doesn't look at it that way. They take a look at it. You were unable to work. There was an inability for you to earn money during this period of time. So,
The fact that she worked harder and made it up, that's not going to disqualify
no.
her.
No. It's a good question, though. It's good.
Okay, again, our speakers,
Okay.
our speakers will stay around. I want to keep the schedule, so we have a couple of more minutes, and because I think this is such a worthwhile operation, and you know, we've touched on a lot of economic issues and practical issues and legal issues today, but there are also emotional issues connected with this, and one of the terrific things I learned today is about Project Hope, which is an umbrella group that provides counseling in many different languages, including Spanish, Korean, Mandarin, Cantonese, and I've also learned that it's funded in part by FEMA and the New York State Office of Mental Health. So if I can call up Joe Paragallo just to talk for a couple of minutes about the services of Project Hope, and their materials are also in the back. Those of you who serve clients, this is a very worthwhile thing you might want to let your clients know about. Joe Paragallo. Thanks for doing this on short notice.
Thanks, Ken. I know that we were speaking earlier just for a few minutes, and Ken was saying to me that after the immediate impact of the hurricane, that they had a number of calls and a number of people who were absolutely besides themselves, as you can imagine. And at that point, they really were, you know, where do we turn to? And this is really what Project Hope is focusing on at this point, is the emotional impact. I know that a lot of the discussion that we've had this morning and ongoing has been about financial issues, but the emotional baggage that comes along with something like this, you can imagine people trying to make themselves whole and get their lives back together, and as we lose control sometimes over what happens in our day-to-day lives, it affects other aspects of our lives. So what we try to do is we try to meet with people and try to encourage them to take a step back and try to help them get on course and identify the resources that they have available and to make use of them, and to try not to be paralyzed by, you know, not knowing what to do or not knowing where to go, and becoming overwhelmed by some of the complex steps that they need to take, or they're feeling that it's just too complex to pursue. And what we try to do is to try to encourage them to review those resources that they have available and to make decisions for themselves about what steps they need to take to go forward.
This is a question for TLC Hart. I mentioned has a telephone and email hotline. We continue to get calls from people suffering from Hurricane Sandy. Is there a kind of PTSD that is likely to set in 2 or 3 months? Post-traumatic stress disorder that is likely to set in 2 or 3 months after the hurricane, after something is done. The immediate crisis of keeping the house together, getting it rebuilt, getting the business rebuilt, is something we're likely to start to see that our callers on the various hotlines here are likely to start to see.
They may, in fact, you know, have people who may report their, you know, feeling, you know, depressed or somehow not being able to cope on a day-to-day basis, and so they may very well. Sure. What I'd like to point out is that Project Hope is a free confidential service. It doesn't cost anything. All it takes is a phone call. What we'll do is we'll come out and we'll sit down with the person. We'll meet with them wherever they want. And it could be at a person's home, or it could be out in the community someplace. It could be at a public space. Really doesn't matter. Just a phone call. I have brochures out on the table in the back, and I'll be staying here for a few minutes after the program. So if there are any general questions at this point, I'll certainly entertain them. Nope? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of our speakers. Very much. Our second round speakers, William Niezgoda from the State Department of Financial Services, Mark Grossman from the State Department of Labor. As we said, our counselors William Friedman will stay around. We have the people from Empire Justice, Project Hope will stay, as will State Labor Department, State Insurance Department. We hope that you found this program useful, that you'll be regular visitors here to Toro Law Center. We hope to have this, the video of this program on the Toro Law website shortly, so look on our website if you'd like to review any of the materials. And again, please be regular visitors here. We thank you for coming on behalf of Dean Patricia Salkin. We hope you'll be regular visitors to the Law Center. Thanks again for coming.